Amazing how quick that new intro goes, Claire, isn't it? You know,
It is. It does go quickly when you don't start the stream.
Anyway, from wherever in the world you're watching or listening to us, thank you for being such a valued part of the Great British Mickey Waffle. This show is one that we have been wanting to share for quite some time. I think they've let Claire and I loose on this because this could go absolutely anywhere at all. But it's one that looks at the past. It questions the present. Please note that. I think that might be where we get hooked. But happily, we're going to look towards the future of Disney parades. The ones we know, the ones we've loved, the ones that we maybe haven't quite had that same affiliation with. But as always, it's Wednesday. And welcome to the Great British Mickey Waffle Live.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I
go. Claire, they've let us loose, and it's just the two of us, and it's just like when you're thinking, who actually signed this off as a good idea?
I did. I think it's a great idea.
I did as well.
I have a glass of wine. Actually, I have you on screen. We have some friends in the chat. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, and that's a nice thing when you get to Wednesday and you just know that you can actually just. It depends how people watch it, because either people are actually watching on the computer, or on the phone, on the laptop, or some people have got it on the big screen on the TV at home.
Big screen. And a big light.
Yeah, big light. Yeah, big light, big TV. And it's just like, but it's so nice. So it doesn't matter how you're watching us. It's an absolute privilege to be in your home and sharing the show with us. Can I start? I'm going to start with a moan, right? Because Sean Lee, who has been really active in the chat and has been really active in watching so many of our shows for such a long time. Now, comes from Newcastle. He was meant to be landing in Newcastle this morning at 5 a.m. Courtesy of TUI via Melbourne in Orlando, in Florida.
Life.
They got diverted out, and according to Flight Radar, they were a bit like yourselves, Claire. Because you were actually on Flight Radar. Your flight in the summer was diverted to Tampa,
and yet we landed
at the very last minute. Yeah, your pilot then turned around. He used the Spanish version. Was it he had the Gajones?
Yeah.
TUI guy didn't this morning, and he was about 20 feet short of the runway, and they sent them to Prestwick. Now, okay, Prestwick to Newcastle. That's okay. You can understand. It was a bit foggy in Newcastle. But they kept them incarcerated on the plane until, was it about 3-4 o'clock this afternoon? I'm just like, goodness, it's like being imprisoned on a TUI plane. So if there's ever another reason to not go on holiday with TUI, I think Sean's found it. And I really look forward to finding out how much compensation he gets, because they have been so badly treated today.
He's on his way home now, though. He has finally made halfway through the journey, but not by air. He's in a taxi from Glasgow.
I'll tell you what.
To Newcastle, bless him.
I've been wanting Matt Knopfler to be playing his guitar as I'm coming across the Tyne Bridge, and it's or Jimmy Dale singing Big River.
I feel so sorry for him because he's exhausted, having been on an overnight flight, and then it's sat on the runway all day. The flight finally got cancelled. There was a problem with the engine, and the flight got cancelled, and it's a bit of a saga for him. So Sean, we are thinking of you. I hope that you get home. You can go to bed as soon as you get home. You don't have to try and stay awake all day like normal, and then wake up tomorrow and go to work.
Yeah, that sounds good. There you go.
Oh dear. Yeah, TUI, brace yourself, because I think there's a claim.
I
said to Sean, I hope you're going to use it for your next deposit for your next trip. That's not with TUI. But I think we had a great trip.
I think that's for me. Yeah, it's spoiled. spoilt it completely. And
they've had such a good trip, and that's the thing, that it's just ruined the end of it.
Yeah,
but you know, these things happen.
Can also just say that, because actually it's been really interesting, because I've not had time to catch up on a lot of socials today, but thankfully I've had a lot of messages on a Facebook group. We had an issue with TUI because my kids were meant to be going away with their grandma last year on a cruise, yeah, and they got cancelled like 22 hours away before they actually were meant to be leaving, which we thought was a little bit unfortunate. However, this seems to be a recurring theme. But also, what was really interesting, if you go to the Waffler's Arms, we do have interactive things on going on there, but we also have our chat, the waffle chat. So it's been interesting hearing other people giving Sean some support today.
Yeah.
But also our good friends at Portwood Travel, Neil had also came out and said it's another reason why they don't push people towards TUI holidays. So just saying, I'm mightily disappointed with them, but there we go.
I feel
wrong
sorry
place
for
to
Sean.
start.
Do you know what though, Joe? And I think when you're booking your trip, and this is a conversation we did have in the chat earlier, because someone was asking, I think it was Samantha, was asking about BA flights, and there seems to be some BA flights cancelled at the moment. The London Gatwick to Orlando international route, which often gets cancelled, but probably less often than people think. It just, lots of people like to talk about it a lot. And there is an issue with one of the aircraft that flies from there that's a bit old and battered, and they need to help it sometimes. I think all airlines have issues, whether that be, as I said earlier, Aer Lingus in France,
everyone does.
Virgin, everyone does. So go in with your eyes open and make your decision for yourself. If it's about price and that's okay, then do that. If you want to go with, I don't know, TWA, go back 25 years and go with TWA, who are very reliable and very comfortable. That's what I would do.
And they were cheaper than Pan Am back in the day. In the
I remember I remember flying with TWA in business class when I was 16. My parents were in first class because it was their 25th wedding anniversary, and we were flying back from Texas. We were flying back from Houston, and story time, people. We arrived late at the airport, and the only seat for me, because I was meant to be in economy, was at the back of the plane where it was still smoking.
Oh, the plane, the people.
The plane wasn't smoking. The people.
Some people won't understand that. Some of these youngsters, people like Ben and Becca, who were busy,
won't remember that.
Enjoying themselves in the Premier Inn at Gatwick as we speak.
They're in the
they
bar.
won't remember that people used to smoke. People used to smoke
the back
on
of the
aircraft.
plane was the smoking section, and my parents refused to allow me to sit in the smoking section, so I ended up being upgraded. I ended up being upgraded and sitting in business class with a team of Irish rugby players. I had a great flight home. They were drinking everything they could get their hands on. And 16-year-old me was like, oh, what is going on? But
I'm not even going to ask it. I'm not going to ask it.
TWA was that's my memory of it.
You might incriminate yourself.
All airlines have their issues. So
they do.
Sean,
and I think
we love you, and we feel so sorry for you today. I hope you get home. And
we do. I think that's probably the best place to draw a line under that and move the show swiftly on, because actually
that's not what we're talking about.
Actually, no, I'm actually looking at something that I know both you and I have got an absolute total adoration for the topic, purely from the fact that we've always looked for that hidden detail. We always look for something different. You're not just looking for the character. You're looking for just that little bit of extra detail that's in the actual float itself. Looking for that little bit of Disney magic, and that's where the parades, past, present, and hopefully in the future. I'm hoping that we get onto the future, because actually I think it'd be remiss of us to not finish the show with what we hope will come next. But I think where we start is actually, if you're in the chat, do share any of your favorites, please do, because I think there are so many. There's so many different ones. We're not going to be able to include every single last one of them.
No,
I'll put that out there.
I can.
We haven't got pictures of all of them either, which the people on the
No.
podcast on Friday morning will be very pleased that they're not
And
looking.
some of the pictures we've got are not the best
thinner.
pictures either, but actually we don't care tonight. Quality
Yeah, but the
control
thing-
has gone
but
out
the-
of the window.
But the thing is, so Claire, and this is a bit that people forget, and I think really from
Friday, they don't care.
well, just back from a trip where I didn't take a camera for the first time. I just went with the phone, and I felt really ill at ease that I didn't have the camera. So I'm just poking the phone, or if I planned ahead, I'd actually, take the gimbal with me. So I've got a gimbal. I bought a gimbal. Look at me, and it's still not the same. It's still not the same as on the camera.
And you
But
take
in
photos
the-
the wrong
in
way
the time
round
of-
as well.
Yeah,
You
but some
take
of these
portrait
photos
rather than
look at 'em.
landscape, which doesn't work for the podcast, for all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So
But the thing is, so close. Some of these photos come from parades that come prior.
a long time
Yeah.
ago.
People have that little Instamatic camera with Kodak
Yeah.
film inside that they had to go, and then they
When
take
the
loads of
world was
pictures, and
not
then
Yeah, when the world was not in high definition.
and you then had to take had to take your
Camera
film to the
Yeah.
chemist or
Don't
wherever you
open
went
the back
to.
of the camera.
Yeah.
Don't open the camera back until you wound it back, because you've ruined it. It's might as well throw it in.
It's bizarre. And it's just like and that's a bit that really is quite scary, because actually we're not talking about that long ago.
Do you know what?
Yo.
Today is a bit of a retro day for me. I was trying to explain to Millie earlier in the car on the way to school. There was somebody, the radio played Especially for You by Kylie and Jason for some reason. And I was trying to explain to her that I bought it as a single. And she was like, a single what? And I was like, like a record single. She was like trying to explain to her how vinyl works. And then trying to explain about audio cassettes. And she was like, like a boombox. And I was just like, well, kind of, and then we talked about the charts and how every Sunday evening, 5 o'clock, you'd listen to the charts to see what had been bought. And it's just like, today is one of those days where I'm just having
It's brilliant though, Claire, because actually
are long gone.
Yeah, and that's the best thing of all. I know Heather, you've just come absolutely straight out.
Heather's on it. She's smashing it out the park to start with.
And actually,
there's no messing around.
I'm gonna start at the highest point, right? I really am, and I think there's no way I can let this show actually go all the way through. I'm not gonna rant. I promise. I'm just going to simply enjoy. There is a photograph, and I'm desperately trying to find it, because it is not just. Okay, you find the picture. I'm sure
is it the one from the back of the parade float?
No, it's the Spectro one. I'm in a Spectro mode.
I know you.
But it's
just trying to see.
I'm not sure. It'd probably be me. It didn't upload. There you go. That's the one. That's the one. And that is just that is Disney magic at its absolute best. And if you're listening to this without the picture, it's actually the parade float with Mickey. And it's that whole thing. It takes you back to secondary school when you did, was it first year secondary school science? When you did that, was it Van de Graaff generator thing with the electricity and it sparks off and stuff like that. And it was such a simple idea. But Disney actually took it and they put it on this parade float to actually make it absolutely magical. And for me, I would say it's a travesty that we lost the parade. But as an actual parade float, it still stands out. It's just like everyone goes to watch the parade. They want to see Mickey. They want to see Mickey in an environment that is just spellbinding, and that was it. It was just like it got the nuance of exactly what a parade was about.
I think
in
it's
the
interesting
days when people waited for the evening parade, and that's it.
They did. When you look at that parade float now, I'm going to bring it back up again. So Mickey's up on an elevated platform, and I think that something that John, both you and I have done, is the Keys to the Kingdom tour. We've both done it twice at different times, not together, with different people. And experience different things. And I know that Morgan's in the chat somewhere, and he's done a parade float tour recently when he was on his college program. And part of my brain is now going, oh, how did Mickey get on there? How is that got a lift inside? Has it got a Did he float? How did he get? Was it Disney magic that got Mickey up there? How did Mickey get up onto the Spectro float? And that's now, I think, you know, the atmosphere of a float within a parade is, and there are some iconic parade floats that we will talk about, that have been never to be repeated, and some that should never have been repeated. And I think the bit that, if you've done any of those backstage tours, sometimes you look at them in a completely different way afterwards. So for me, like all that detail in terms of, wow, how did Ariel sit up there and not melt, and you know, all of that stuff, and how are they driving it, and what does it how do they know when to stop and start, and all of those things, like the operational control of the parade is part of the magic of those floats, because they just seem to seamlessly travel.
And that was interesting, because actually on the latest Keys to the Kingdom tour that I did, we didn't get a lot of that. We got to see them testing the dragon breathing fire, but it was over water. They took it out the shed, so it was over water. Just health and safety. Health and safety was very big, I've got to say. But the original, but the original one I went to original Keys to the Kingdom tour I did would have been, I think, December 2010. We got inside the actual barn, but they were able to show us how they were all charged up. It was a time when I actually think they just got back the Main Street Electrical Parade, and it was in need. I think they described it. It was in need of a bit of TLC before they then announced Summer Night-tastic for, I think, 2011. I think that's where I'm at. And so they were basically restoring nigh on all the bulbs and all of the circuitry on the Main Street Electrical Parade, because it was the word from the cast members was very much the fact that California didn't look after the parades, and it just needed an upgrade. It needed rebulbing it just to LED to make it actually look better. Little did we know what would happen a few years down the line to Spectro, but I'll leave that to another time. But he went into such detail as to how these parade floats actually worked. I don't know if it's the same technology now, but underneath the tarmac on Main Street and through the whole parade route, there's little sort of, I think it's like electrical or magnetic markers that if you're the driver of the parade float, your visibility is very, very little. It's basically just what you're looking at on your computer screen, and nothing, you know, you think of, there's nothing else around it. You've not got any peripheral vision. It is just like tunnel.
I think that's something really important to point out, and I know that I didn't realize that some of those parade floats, you're not looking out at all. The driver has no vision of the outside world.
TV screen.
They are inside a closed cell underneath the float with digital screens, which are linked to the cameras on the outside of the parade float. And my goodness, the skill of those drivers, because can you imagine just trying to something that big with people on it and moving parts and stuff. That's quite the job.
I'm trying not to give too many spoilers away, but actually I think from a health and safety point of view, what's really interesting is actually they have things in place, and people on the parade, either dancers or people who are basically on the parade, but they're walking alongside the parade, and what their job is that basically they're just looking to see has a child's balloon blown into the street, and is a child then going to come in front of it. But there's basically an emergency stop button on every single parade float, which then alerts the driver, but also the driver, those little markers I was talking about that are underneath the tarmac, they give them either, I don't know, there's a red or a green light and things like that, or there's like a buzzer system, a little bit like railways use.
I was going to say, like smart motorways and stuff.
Yeah. So you know that you can go into the next sector of the parade safely, and you know that maybe there's not been a parade
A
float
pile
that's
up.
broken. Yeah,
A
but
parade float pile up.
yeah, but and that's how it happens, and the amount of advanced technology that I'm thinking of now, because if you think of
Yeah.
sort of certainly Main Street Electrical Parade, and you look at Spectro as well, at the time that they actually were originally designed, the technology was probably quite basic, but to actually have used that, and I think they still use the same thing because they rely on it, they know it works, and there's no better way of actually getting people to know exactly what's happening. If you're in a cocoon in a vehicle and you're trying to drive it, and you're just relying on other people to guide you, and just this, you're looking at just basically 3 meters in front of you on the road. I would really love that job. Just think that, what a challenge. But could you imagine night after night of the responsibility?
I know,
because
it's unpredictable every single time you do it, because you don't know when a kid's foot's going to come up. And you know, I have so much now more understanding of why, when the parade is coming, the cast members are coming on going feet behind the line, don't, you know, all of that stuff. That's why, because they don't want to have to run over your foot. You know, I think it's really fascinating when you know the reasons. It's always about safety.
Can we maybe flip it the other way as well? Because we'll look at the other people who are on the side, who, you know, you can see that as the cast member comes to him and says, "Look, can you just make sure your feet are on there?"
Yeah.
And you can see, you see them going. I've sat here for over an hour, and you can see them having a little rant to themselves, but they don't understand. It's really interesting. Laura's in the chat as well. Did Keys to the Kingdom as well, and actually, this is actually such an important part of actually understanding that, you know, as a guest, let's remember we are guests within a Disney park. You know, if you're asked to do something, don't question it. It's actually for your own benefit, and it's there for your own enjoyment. Just, you know, soak it up and go with the flow. You know, it's just I can't be doing with that.
Let's talk about another. I want to talk about more floats.
Go on, you go, because I chose Spectro first. I think that was very self-indulgent of me, but everyone knew it was going to happen anyway.
But there is still a bit of Spectro on one of the floats for Festival of Fantasy, isn't there?
Yeah.
If people aren't aware that Sebastian on the Little Mermaid float is reclaimed from the Spectro float, so Spectro's still there in its very small bit.
It is. I know we mentioned. I think we mentioned this in last week's show. I think, or in one of the recent podcasts that we did. But that Disney 100 exhibition, and I'll always go back to the fact that. But you sort of, I wasn't aware. I just got completely lost in the Jiminy Cricket bit, and just for you, just around me, and you're just like, and that's what it means. That's what it means. It's just
watching you with tears in your eyes.
It's so bizarre. I can't really explain it. Yeah,
we all have a Disney thing that tugs our heartstrings, and we don't know why. For you, it happens to be Spectro. Yeah, I think for me, it's probably like Illuminations, Reflections of Earth. The music for that, and just listening to even just that initial talk, you know, the initial commentary by Jim Cummings and the blowing out of the candle, all of that.
Goosebump time. That's it. Right.
Yeah. So you've mentioned it already. We've seen it in the barn. I saw it in the barn 6 months after you saw it, and the light bulbs had all been replaced.
Yeah.
So the electrical parade.
Yeah.
And I know, Heather, this is I nearly said a C word. This is not a great photo, but that float with the blue fairy at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I think was it Heather who mentioned the blue fairy? Yes, it was Heather. That amazing float at the beginning of the blue fairy stood right at the very top of her enormous dress as she guides it down Main Street. I mean, the music, the Baroque hoedown. I know we've talked about parade music previously on a different show. But
it doesn't matter. We can keep talking about parade music because the two go hand in hand, don't they?
the Main Street Electrical Parade is such a clever idea. You know, you're going to get everyone congregating on Main Street at the end of the day, and you're going to watch light bulbs. And I love the dragon float.
Yeah.
Pete's dragon. It's amazing. And I also love the spinning. I didn't get a photo of them. The snails that used to they were really fast and they switched down and like they spin round.
But
so
also,
I was like,
some of those led to the design of what came after that with Spectro as well. It was the same sort of notion that you were doing that. Beautiful.
So you've got these little independent things that are happening.
Yeah.
And I think having seen the Main Street Electrical Parade back in the early 90s, so that would have been 1991, I probably first saw it on my first trip to Orlando. And then again, the last time it was there. But they also had a version of it at Disneyland Paris.
Yes.
Which was
now that's amazing. Lost in the annals of time as well, though. Yeah, it was, because actually that for me, and I remember the exact point in Main Street that I actually saw that. And when you watch it, and you're like, I've seen this before. And you just like, it just hadn't twigged exactly what we were watching. It was just
when
like,
I looked
wonderful.
at my photos, when I looked at my photos for tonight, the photos I had of the Main Street Electrical Parade were from Disneyland Paris, but they were like their old film photos, so they're shiny ones. So I couldn't even take a decent picture of them to upload because of the reflection on the photo, the paper itself. But that actually is a parade that opened Disneyland Paris. So it was 92. It started as the park opened.
Yeah, and
it ran for 11 years. So all the time it was sort of coming and going in other places, it was happening in Disneyland Paris as well. And I just it was almost identical. The floats were replicas, which we see quite often in Disneyland Paris, and we'll come back to that later on. But the I think the other one that really sticks out in my mind is the American Eagle at the end, the great big eagle with the stars and stripes.
That's the bit for me. That is the bit for me, which I, as an actual parade float experience, and actually trying to explain to the kids, you don't spell honor that way if you're English. Just say like, but it is beautiful, and it's just like it's that whole pride. I know I've said this before about many things American, and especially with Flag Retreat in Magic Kingdom, but it's that pride in your country that we don't have that in Britain, and we've lost any semblance of ever being able to get it back. But I love that whole pageantry part. It's just so brilliant, and even the costumes that the cast members are wearing as part of the parade, it's just like amazing. Just wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
So go on, you'll pick again. Where are you going next?
I don't know, Claire, because I don't know. But half hour in. I know. I'm just gonna share a little story because I know I like these stories and things like that, but I never quite got the Main Street Electrical Parade. Right? I know that's a different picture, but hey, we'll deal with that. I remember, and it was probably the summer after Spectro got trashed and things like that. And I swore I was never ever gonna watch the parade again. I'd throw my toys totally out the pram. And I watched Main Street Electrical Parade, which I'm not a great lover of the music. I've said that before, but I was stood next to a guy who was, and we were just like, the kids were a bit younger. I was feeling a bit twitchy. We were just in front of the railway station and looking up, and we'd got in late. We just found the best spot we could. That'll do, kids. We'll do that. We'll get some nice pictures about that. We're next to this guy, and he just wanted to see the Main Street Electrical Parade. I was just like, okay. And he was getting more and more agitated, more and more. And he had, it was basically like Rain Man. So it was the Charlie Babbitt experience, and it was by the end of the night, it was the most beautiful and the most awe-inspiring parade I've ever watched. Because this guy and his carer came from Birmingham in the UK, and he spoke to us afterwards, and he just said that he had got more of a buzz out of the fact that I was trying to film it, and in the end I just gave up because this guy was giving me he was basically giving a bit by bit commentary. But my kids were just absolutely drawn by his pure Disney knowledge, his pure Disney love. And as a family, we got drawn into that. And instead of being afraid of someone's sort of autism and someone's difficulties in life, we walked away with just that realization that is what a nighttime parade in Magic Kingdom used to afford everybody. You met strangers, and you met people that you would never meet in a queue line, because everyone's trying to see, well, which is this side going quicker than this side? You had time to just stop and just share that passion. And possibly that's how we've ended up doing this for so long. It's because that's what we kind of encapsulate on a Wednesday, is that whole thing of stopping and sharing that passion. And it will live with me forever in my life. He was just the most beautiful guy. And at the end of it, I think we bought him an ice cream, and we just parted ways, and it was beautiful. It really was. And I hope if and when my kids are actually watching and listening to this, I hope they have the same. I know they have the same memories, but I just hope it just reminds them of just sort of, as they get into this guy must have been about the same age as I, just 21, 22, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And really sort of very, very needy, but beautiful. What a wonderful person. I just thought, you talk about Main Street Electric Parade, that is the one thing forever. And I just think it's worth everybody knowing that.
It's funny, isn't it, how your memory connects certain things together, and they will always be connected. Now, something that connects me to parade floats, and I think that some of our friends in the chat will recognize this float. I'm going to bring it up and see how many parades do we think it featured in? So, anyone in the last, at least guessing, 25 years, 26, 27.
I'm guessing, Claire, right? That parade float cost a lot of money. So whenever a parade,
there was a lot of mirror on it,
reimagined and that, we're not getting rid of that. That stays.
Princess Castle float.
Yeah,
it has been churned out so many times. I mean, it was definitely part of Celebrate a Dream Come True parade.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was definitely part of. I'm trying to think. Probably had it been in the 20th anniversary parade and then rebranded for the 25th? I can't remember. It was in Share a Dream Come True. It was in Disney Dreams Come True. It was in Celebrate a Dream. It was definitely in one of the evening parades as well. And I can't remember which one. But it's been churned out over and over and over.
But it's really good though,
because actually a parade's not complete. And I think it's even been open to Paris at some point. And
but a parade's not complete until you've actually. There we go. Here it is. There we go. We're sorted. That's it. It's lived. It's lived for another day.
But there you are. Morgan says he may or may not have been on that parade float when he did his thing.
Oh wow.
And it was a gift from California, so it's obviously it done its time there, and then came down to California. It came from California to Orlando.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a massive thing, and it's got a bridge in the middle. It's almost got like two ends to it with a bridge in the middle.
Good call by two drivers.
I mean, I'm thinking about like the split diff and all sorts of things like that in the engine, John. Can you imagine what it must be like trying to drive that? It'd be like an old Land Rover.
But I think again, And I think it was by accident we started the show by talking about the parade float driver. But actually, when you think of that float, it's absolutely crackers.
Huge. I know.
It's
But
just
that
like,
for me is like
and-
an iconic parade float because of the number of different parades it has been in. If there was a champion parade float that's been in there was a parade float prize for the most number of parades that it's been in, surely that has to be the winner. Because I don't think anyone's seen in the last 30 years. We all must have seen it many times.
Yeah. Even Heather says she's seen it. She's seen it in Disneyland as well. So it gets about a bit. I guess.
But yeah,
that's a good call.
A little mention because of its starring role.
Can we also have a little mention as well? Some of the little hidden details of Celebrate a Dream Come True parade, which again I think we did way back when we first started. We were looking at hidden details, and we touched upon this, but we didn't. This is why this is such a good show for Claire and I. But as a parade, when you first saw that, you kind of just ignored it. So, it's a parade, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, really good. Enjoyed it. Yeah, it's great, blah, blah. Actually, when you get back to the hotel or the villa later on, and that music is still going, and
it's in my head now. I could sing it.
Yeah, I know.
Just like,
it's bizarre. And so you then come home and you find yourself back at work, and suddenly on a miserable winter's afternoon, you start. And you're like, hang on, why does this parade do this to me?
The armography.
But there's other stuff in it as well that you don't see. And there's a couple of pictures. There's this one, which is a picture of Walt that was on.
That's at the last float, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the very end float of the parade.
Yeah,
and it's just like Walt at the gates of the castle at Disneyland. And then there was another one which I'm not sure.
It's that
I think you've got that's the one. I just love that. I just love the detail. I just love the fact that
organ.
Yeah, but it's just like the hidden Mickeys on it a whole lot, and it's just like that is the detail to which parades and parade floats they went to just get that magic and just enjoyment of what Disney was about. And when you look at that, how does that fit in so nicely with the ride that went in? It's probably
the same thing. It's probably they nicked it off the float and stuck it in the
it's just magical. And that's what I really want people to get from this show is the fact that parades, it didn't matter if it was nighttime parade or daytime parade, they were truly, absolutely incredible moments, and you remember them forever. There was one in Hollywood Studios, and this is going.
Is that the Pixar one?
No, before that, and it had Bear in the Big Blue House in it.
Oh yeah.
And it was it stars in their motor cars and all that.
Stars in Motor Car Parade or something.
And
Bear.
But it was that moment we didn't have kids at the time. Those were the days.
Those cheaper days.
Yeah, and we've been sent. We're on a mission. Is if you see a picture of a bear, please take it and bring it back, because I think Alison's sister had a baby and was just completely besmitten by bear. And when you're just like, okay, we'll take a picture. Little did we know how big a role bear would have in our lives as we had kids, and then they got older, and you're like, oh my word,
bear is still important in our lives.
Oh, too right.
Bear is never leaving.
Just there. Yeah. He's there. No, it's just always there.
I think the one that I remember in Hollywood Studios is, I think it was the Block Party Bash rather than the Pixar one. And the Block Party Bash, I think, is the one where they came down and is that the one where they had the big beach balls and the trampolines, or was that the Pixar one? I'm trying to remember. There
was two very similar.
And it came down.
They were both very similar, and they both
the top.
Yeah. And I think the Pixar one, I'm sure somewhere in one of the boxes upstairs, we've still got one of the little, it's like a little plastic squishy ball
Like the Pixar ball, the yellow one.
Yeah, that pops, but they popped them out at the end of during the parade.
Right.
And so, you know, as you do, you go and collect them, and you're like, I'll bring that home. I think we've still got one.
It was an interactive parade. So I think the Block Party Bash one was the interactive
Yeah.
version of it. A bit like Move It, Shake It, Dance It, Celebrate It, Sing It.
Whatever
whatever version of it we're on.
Insert your own word at home as you
Something
wish.
with it after. Choose your verb however you would like. I can think of many.
It did kind of change yearly. So in the end, as the kids got older, it kind of changed. It did change its name. Yeah.
Right.
Quite deservedly.
But that was such a cool parade because the floats came down and the characters got off the floats and then interacted with the guests. So the kids were invited out into the parade area. They were dancing, they were playing, they had games with them. There was balls, there was hula hoops, there was all sorts of things. And whilst it wasn't particularly big, it just went up and around the hub and back down Main Street.
Yeah.
It was it happened like 4 times a day. And that music, the Vamos, everyone knows that one. And we've talked about parade music and how got such earworms now.
Yeah.
But that Move It, Dance It thing was genius because it didn't cost very much in terms of cast members because of the fact that when they stopped, they did a thing and then they moved around a bit more and they did a thing again. So actually it wasn't particularly intensive in terms of
it was
numbers.
Kind of rinse and repeat, wasn't it?
Yeah. And because it was a different character on each float, you could stop 3 times and people would just stay in the hub for 20 minutes, half an hour, watching the same thing happening over and over and over again. So it was really clever.
I think as well though, Claire, and this is perhaps something that, I'm not going to make it, I'm not complaining about it, but actually it's actually just one of those observations that when that actually started, the actual respect given to cast members and respect shown to those who were dancing and things like that was absolutely second to none.
Right.
And if somebody had overstepped the mark, then somebody would step in and say no. And now, for some apparent reason, which I don't honestly believe is just based upon sort of lockdowns, etc., it's changed. And if you had that same parade and they were stopping, you would have someone shoving their child right in front of Mickey Mouse's face or right in front of Donald Duck. Stand there, I want a picture take before you.
Disrespecting the character cast.
Yeah.
We've all seen the videos online of people going up behind characters and hitting them, and the character attendants have a real job to try and make sure that everyone stays safe. And I think that was the thing that was different. I remember watching that parade and watching Goofy picking up some child and almost like shaking him by his ankles upside down. They were allowed. I'm sure he wasn't meant to be picking up.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Disney lawyers, if you're listening, that'll be it.
But because there was that touching interaction, it meant so much to everyone that was able to do that. Actually, if you can have a boogie on the sideline of a parade, but if you're in the parade area and you're dancing with Goofy or with whoever it is, that's then a core memory. That's in there. And I just think we're at a point now, sadly, where I don't ever see that happening again.
No.
Awful. And I don't understand why, and it really annoys me, and I don't want to have a rant about it, but people need to behave better. There we are. I've said it.
I totally agree. But we're not even talking 10 years down the line.
Maybe that's a show for the future. Guest bad behaviour. Maybe that's what I'll talk about.
After hours, it'd have to be something. We'd have to be allowed to have a right good proper rant about that and just sort of really lose the plot, because that would, because actually that you can't explain to someone if you've got kids of a certain age and characters are going and actually interacting like they did, and so personally, it was so wonderful, but for a child, you'd be going home and you'd actually feel as if it wasn't like going and getting your autograph with Mickey Mouse or anything. You're actually you're part of the show.
Yeah.
And that, I'm sure that's probably part of the reason why Josh has ended up done the summer at Disney, because as part of him actually feels that that's exactly it, you know. Yeah, thank you, Morgan. It would be
an
a good
interesting show.
It would be.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a sad thing that unfortunately nobody can blame Disney for that.
No,
because actually, I actually think that that's come from guests and it's come from people's.
Let's move on.
People's entitlement. I think let's put it in a polite way. We'll move on. I think we've done Magic Kingdom to death. Can we go to Epcot, because actually
that's where I was going to go.
Just good, because I knew you would. Because actually, I think both of us love this parade, and actually,
it's another dodgy photo, but I'm going to bring it up.
It doesn't matter.
I think Wendy likes this one too.
Yeah,
but to be fair, when that parade was happening, it probably was that fuzzy.
Yeah,
that's probably the level of quality.
It probably was. That was it. Point and shooting.
Tapestry of Nations, amazing parade going round World Showcase. The puppeteering that was involved.
For the younger people listening to this, Becca, we know you.
They're gone. They're on holiday. They're not listening anymore.
That's it.
They weren't born when this was happening.
Absolutely incredible, and yes, they haven't shrunk the pavement, and it was exactly as it is now.
It's enormous puppets.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, and just as I think probably for my first time at Epcot, I would probably remember two things more than anything else, and that was the bus with the characters.
Yeah, double-decker bus.
That was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the parade and the music, and you were just. I'm thinking that I wasn't going to like Disney the first time I ever went. And look how much it's cost. Look how much it's cost me along the way. But I was just stunned. It probably took me by surprise, and it took my breath away. And even thinking about it now, the logistics and the amount of people and the amount of space that it took up, you still wonder how you saw such just an amazing parade in the space that was actually provided. It was
incredible, and it was, these puppets were enormous, and actually they were designed by the person who then went on to design the puppets for the Lion King in Broadway. So the heritage of them is sound, but they had these enormous drum units that went round, and then I remember the one at the beginning that looked like a sun, I think, was it at the front of the parade, the head of the parade. But they had several different puppets, and the parade performers, there was lots and lots of stilt walkers, which obviously has evolved into things like Festival of Lion King show, and all, the use of stilt walkers around the parks. And actually,
but even some of the design, I think you're about to say,
some of the costumes are reused. I was going to say, so if you've been to Festival of the Lion King recently or ever, the stilt walkers who do their in the corner, who have the big like semicircular headdresses on with the almost like a half circle, like a semicircle color stripe. It looks a bit like a rainbow, but it's not rainbow colors. Those are the they're made from straw. Those are the headdresses from Tapestry of Nations parade. So they've been I have to say, the sustainability approach, I'm giving them credit. Sustainability approach from Disney is really impressive, because they do reuse and recycle. We see the same things, whether they be parade floats, headdresses, music, whatever it looks like, being reused. And I think that
can we reframe that and just say it's a nod towards? I think that's it's the heritage part. It's just making sure that a little moment doesn't get forgotten about.
But like Tapestry of Nations was really unique, and that there really hasn't been anything else like that from a puppeteering point of view, other than the Broadway shows. And I don't really understand why it stopped. Presumably because someone sensible went, "This is really not so safe.
It's dangerous."
This is not a good idea, people."
I think the other thing as well, and I think with my sensible head on, it cost an awful lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of people that were involved in that parade,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of dancers, the amount of puppeteers, the amount of people that are required to run the parade route.
Yeah. Rope it off, because there's nowhere to rope it. There isn't any.
No.
There's nothing on the floor to be able to put a rope up.
No. And
Magic Kingdom, you've got the parade route, and
so you would have someone coming down with tape, and you would have don't stand beyond the tape.
Yeah.
And so, like we said originally, these people, they had nowhere else to go, and I'm pretty sure
stuck.
You go back.
If you got on the wrong side of
and there was
the bridge, you were stuck.
And there was no move. There was basically no park movement.
Yeah.
And not just the parade time, but before. Yeah. And you can understand it. You were trapped on World Showcase.
Yeah. Trapped in Italy, but there was no vehicles. It was all under person power, wasn't it? Everything was pushed or walked, and so there wasn't. It wasn't a fast moving thing, and it went all the way around World Showcase. So by the time it probably took 45 minutes easily to get round. So by that point, it was like, everyone's kind of.
Absolutely beautiful. I think as well, amazing. Claire, that whole design thing is still, again, going back to Magic. I don't want to push us back to Magic Kingdom, but in Festival of Fantasy with the steampunk design of the dragon, that's the same sort. That's the same sort of design. That steampunk, that whole working mechanics.
Industrial.
Yeah, and that's you can't really explain it. What I would say, if you've never seen it, there's loads of brilliant videos on YouTube.
Do go back and watch
Once
it.
we've finished, go and check them out. Lose yourself in the music.
Yeah.
And it's just like Epcot. Epcot's been like a lesser place for it, and I know when it went away, it kind of put us off a little bit from going round World Showcase for a bit, because we really
even when Barbie was there.
You can guarantee that, Claire.
I can't remember when Barbie was there. I didn't find the dates, but Barbie was definitely in Epcot and in American Pavilion in the stage briefly in a pink stretch limousine. I do remember that. So it must have been like 91 or 93, because that was the first time we went, and I seem to remember Barbie being
days that bring Disney to shame. The days they don't like. There's a show. Days that Disney don't like to remember.
Oh, that'd be a great show. Yeah, the Disney days we no longer talk about.
The 300.
Hello, Michael Eisner.
Yeah, the cake, things like that. Castle.
I remember that as well. Yeah, I mustn't call all the good things. One of the parades I remember that I didn't manage to get a picture of it, but it was the 20th anniversary celebration parade in Magic Kingdom, the one with the massive balloons. Do you remember that? I don't know if you ever saw that one, John.
Yes.
Like, it must have been 91 or 93.
I didn't see it.
I do remember there being an enormous Roger Rabbit balloon. So it must have been 91, because in 1992 we went to California, and I remember doing the Roger Rabbit ride in California.
Yeah.
Before California Adventure existed, when it was still a car park, but in Disneyland. And but yeah, this enormous, absolutely terrifying Roger Rabbit balloon coming down Main Street. And these balloons they were like 4 floors high. They were huge, and like kite tails and those things, they were short-lived. This parade went on, I think, for like 3 or 4 years, and I don't know how they stored them, how they managed to deal with them every day.
In some ways, that was, and if anyone's in the chat and can correct me on this, that was the go-to parade float of choice. You go back to the Macy's parade for and stuff like that. you have these big balloons coming out every year for, I think it was Thanksgiving parade or whatever.
New Year's Day, whatever it was.
Yeah, but balloons, wind, the lack of ability to
rain,
the lack of ability to actually mold balloons into actually what was a feasible sort of and recognizable shape is always a little bit difficult. And so that I've seen pictures of it. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
And that morphed into the Mickey Mania parade, which I remember as well, which really wasn't very pleasant either. It was a bit scary, and I think that we've moved on. I mean, Mickey Mania looked a bit like that.
Yeah.
Which, you know.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've moved forwards. We were out of Magic Kingdom, and I know that we've got some pictures of one of my favourite parades, and I'm trying to find the right picture to show first, but probably that one. Oh, that's the Jammin Jungle.
That's the Jingle Parade.
The that one with the vehicle with Goof on the top. And I know we talked about this when we talked about the music of the parades, but the Jammin Jungle Parade that was in Animal Kingdom, the one and only Animal Kingdom parade that has ever been. Oh my goodness, I loved that parade. That also had stilt walkers, but it had the best music. It had these. It had they were almost like safari trucks, weren't they? There was like some of them were slightly smaller, like the Land Rover that sits outside the Kilimanjaro safaris when you come out and you're coming towards Gorilla Falls. They used those vehicles through the parade route from Africa right down to what was then Camp Mini Mickey, and the characters were so close to the guests because it's not a very wide road. They're literally driving into you.
Again, just if you're in Animal Kingdom again, try to imagine how you would fit a parade around the areas that you're walking, because actually you couldn't. And it was even thinking back.
I'm trying to think. It came out of the gates by the safari.
Yeah.
And through Africa.
Yeah.
Over the bridge.
And then past where Starbucks is now.
Yeah, past the Pizza Safari, and then turned right into Camp Mini Mickey.
Yeah.
So think how wide the path is there. And they had guests either side, and then like Land Rovers being driven with characters on the top and flags and things, and it was awesome. It was madness, but brilliant.
But on a daily basis as well, and I think that's the best thing. It's the fact that you look at it now and you think that was something really special, because actually they were pushing it to the limit.
As to how,
and I think at the time the timing of the parade was very flexible, because I think at that particular time everyone has seen Animal Kingdom as it's a half-day park. So let's have the parade let's try it at 3:00.
Yeah.
No, everyone's out of there by then.
Yeah.
They've gone elsewhere. Right. So we'll bring it back. Let's have the parade at let's try 12:00. No, it's too busy. Try 2:00. 2:00.
That'll do.
And then it's just like by just look, I think one of the last times we saw it, I think it was 4:00. It was trying to get people to stay in the park longer.
It was just heat of Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
standing still.
Absolutely amazing, and just
that.
I hate to say it, because there's some things that as we do this as a show, I hate to say, you had to see it, but you literally did have to see it, and. It wasn't one that you could even put the kids on your shoulders for.
No, it was too tight.
Everything was just there was no room to actually get the children. It was just like everyone just had nowhere to go.
Just stay where you are. Don't move. And wave. Yeah. But the characters were really in your. I mean, they were so close to you. And they did a Christmas version. They did the Jammin Jingle Parade, which we see Christmas overlays for things. But that was it made such a difference. And I know Animal Kingdom's tried so many things over the years with, kite tails and rivers of light all the
You're
other Cockney
trying
rhyming
really
slang.
well there, Claire.
All the other rhyming slang of things that we've seen in Animal Kingdom. Just bring back the Jammin Jungle parade. Everyone will stay in. Can you imagine if they did it at like 5:30 and it was lit in the winter? It would be amazing. And I know they put Pandora in the way and all of that rubbish. I'm sure they could work it out. I'm sure they could sort it.
Yeah.
I would absolutely adore it if they could bring back a version of it. Just music.
In fact, I tell you what, I'm going to try and find a way of doing this. I'm going to find a park map.
You're going to draw a route for them.
I'm going to try and
Josh
plot
can help you.
Yeah.
Josh was working in Animal Kingdom, so he knows where it's.
He
knows all
the
details.
Place. He knows the place back to front, inside out,
or even do it on the river. You know, put the Jammin Jungle parade.
I was going to say
in barges.
Yeah, because they do have
the music playing. They've got that beautiful seating area.
Yeah, that they don't use, which is like a bit of a
dear Mr. Iger.
Let's not talk about it. But they actually do it. Every hour or something? You get the band coming past on the float.
But let's do it as the Jammin Jungle parade instead.
Think about it. You could actually reinvent the whole parade and just do it as a ride
like
through.
a flotilla.
Yeah,
be like an armada.
It would work.
I think they've only got 2, but you could have an armada of the barges. That would be so
There's
cool.
There's 2 barges count as an armada. I think they probably maybe they could tow the electrical parade from Magic Kingdom. Get that coming behind you. There we go. Then we could become an armada. But that would be brilliant. That would work so amazingly well.
Why has no one done that? Why have they not got that music?
18th of September 2024.
Put it on your post-it note, John.
Great British Mickey Waffle thought of this first. Right. Just saying.
Right.
There's
many things we think of first that
we're having 10%, Claire. That's it.
But you've just mentioned the electrical water pageant.
Yeah.
And we can't do a show about parade floats without talking about the electrical water pageant. And it's it's an original thing.
Yeah, but the actual beauty of it. And even now, it's just like you look at it now and how they managed to keep it going and keep it so relevant and keep it as something that even if you're coming out of Magic Kingdom at the end of the day and you're on either monorail or the ferry and you're like, look,
it takes forever to get over to Wilderness Lodge and back. I mean, it goes so slowly. I don't know what it's powered by, but it isn't a quick moving thing. And the 8-bit glory music is just the best. And the fact that even if you're like in some of the restaurants, they still pipe the music in. Yeah. And it is just, it's so unique. You've got King Triton with his dolphins. You've got the, all of the stuff that happens. And it's such an iconic thing that is a real bit of nostalgia that I think, talking to friends who've been going to Disney for a very long time, who are much older than me, this is something they remember. And they remember seeing it when they stayed at, the Contemporary or wherever it was when they were children. And this is a thing that, however...
It's kind of where it all started, though. The whole notion of having electrical lights. But when you
see it, so you went on the Keys of Kingdom tour. Did you see it?
I was just about to say that because we were privileged to
primitive,
to walk past it, and again, trying to keep the magic alive and not spoil it for people and things like that. You're not allowed to take photographs when you're on the tour, especially when you're backstage and things like that. So, which is really good. But I can still explain to you the fact that my Christmas lights,
a bit of chicken wire and a few Christmas lights,
probably are the next step on from what you're actually watching on it. It's brilliant. It's just like
basic. It's unbelievable, and you're just like, they're like rafts with like a prop engine on the back, and then this bit of metal grid with a few light bulbs. They're so basic. And actually, if you one evening you choose to walk from Magic Kingdom to Grand Floridian, and you take the new path that was a very nice walk. You walk over the little bridge. If you look to the right, if you're at the right time of day, you can see it moored up there on the right hand side. It's sort of like 8 floats, one behind each other, just stuck on the side. You would never know in the daytime that that's what they are, because they literally look like a bit of like metal with some tarpaulin and a couple of bulbs, and it's so primitive, and yet come nighttime and the darkness, so brilliant.
It's beautiful. That epitomizes what a nighttime parade is about, and I think that's where, in some ways, the daytime, and it's like that argument, daytime and nighttime, and a nighttime parade is actually much easier to and pleasing on the eye, because actually the detailing, and go back to how we both enjoyed the Halloween party and the Halloween parade. It's just like, it's just, thank you, Heather. I just noticed that comment there. I really appreciate that. We'll take it, considering we're the only 2 on the show tonight. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. We'll put that on the show notes, Claire. Yeah.
I will say, okay, that's going to be Claire next week's show. Next week's show details will be Claire and John, who should be Imagineers. That'll be our next week's show. I think it's really important to know that people are watching or listening on Friday. John and I had zero conversation about this before tonight. We tend usually,
but we work best like this, Claire.
We often will have like a little bit of chat in a WhatsApp group or something about the show beforehand. And John and I both rocked up tonight, both having done independent research, having put some photos in StreamYard, but we hadn't had any discussion about what we were going to talk about in any way, shape or form. Well, can you imagine our poor families when we were away on holiday and John and I started just, sitting at dinner, and that was it. Everyone else was eyes and glazing over. We were just like chatting away, making it all better.
But and that's it, though, Claire. And I think the thing is, and this is what I hope people at home, and if you're listening in the car, whatever, you kind of feed off it, is the fact that we share that same passion that other people who go to this very special place, but we share it because actually we love the little intricacies and the little bits that we've hopefully talked about during the course of this show. Now, I'm going to just turn this a little bit, because I know you mentioned earlier in the show about Disneyland Paris, and I know you.
Yes. I put a picture in there that's really...
And I didn't want us to get to the end of the show and think, we should have mentioned Disneyland Paris, because actually, let's remember,
we don't always talk about DLP. We very rarely talk about it, but
we rarely do. But also, I mention especially for the fact that we need to remember that Paris were very, very much on the front foot about changing the nighttime offering and actually doing the drone stuff that people in Orlando have been fortunate enough to see this summer. And that team from Paris is actually in Orlando, so I think we'll see a lot more of that as a nighttime offering. When you see it, it's absolutely incredible. And I think both you and I have got probably the same view of what was on offer at Disney Springs, because you had to see it from a certain direction. But the wider opinion from Orlando is the fact that drone show was night after night was superb, but brought so many people into Springs. It was different and it was fresh, and that for me is where Paris has actually, I think, been very innovative over the years as well, haven't they?
Yeah, so Paris, I think Disneyland Paris really excels at parades, and I think if you've not been and you don't realise, they always have their normal daytime parade, which is usually around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and they all pretty much always have
Paris time.
Yeah, so they pretty much have also seasonal parades that happen during the day, but maybe it's usually 4 times during the day, because they tend to do a pincer movement on the hub, one end in Fantasyland, one from the bottom of the hub, and they come up and they swap places, and they do it twice through the day, so that they're basically backwards and forwards up Main Street. And some of those seasonal parades have been incredible. I'm just thinking like the Jungle Book Jive, which had an entire band of Bhangra dancers and dole drummers that came out of the castle 4 times a day. We're talking like 40 Bhangra dancers coming through the middle of Disneyland Paris, and
Wow.
everything grinds to a halt. You know, really incredibly talented cast that they brought in, just for that specific celebration of the Jungle Book, and you know, the celebration of colour and Indian heritage. It was amazing. It really was incredible, and I've got videos of that, and I will put them in the Waffler's Arms, because whilst it's not a parade float, there was a couple of floats that were beautiful. The whole parade itself was incredible. And I think, you know, we've got things like Pirates and Princesses, Make Your Choice, that went on for, 2, maybe 3 years, of one of the cheesiest and earworm tunes you've ever heard. But those parade floats had trampolines on them. It was a pirate ship with a trampoline in the middle, and they had acrobats doing. Again, I'll put some videos in the Waffler's Arms, because those parade floats were unbelievable in terms of they had 2 drivers, they had a latch in the middle, and they had the big massive trampolines that folded out, and then the cast who were dressed as pirates were doing ridiculous acrobatics on. Yeah, it was crazy. But Disneyland Paris do really well with their parades, and they've had a couple of recently, certainly for the 30th anniversary. This parade, which was the Dream and Shine Bright parade, probably had the catchiest parade tune, I think. It's probably
better than Chante Noel. Goodness, that's it.
Don't even, we're not talking Christmas parades is a whole other thing. But that particular parade music it's on Spotify if anyone wants to go and listen to it. Just look up Disneyland Paris on Spotify. But it's so catchy. It's probably more of an earworm than Celebrate a Dream Come True. But there is one parade float from Disneyland Paris that everyone talks about that has never been repeated, but it was there on a number of different parades for several years, and it is this parade float, which is the Alice when she's eaten the biscuit and grown too big for the house. Yeah. Now that parade float with like her arms and her legs sticking out the windows. And for people who can't see me on Friday because you're listening to it, I did do the actions. That parade float was in probably 12, maybe 15 years. A bit like the princess, the castle float.
But again, so beautifully French as well. Because actually, if for me, it just gels with exactly what Disneyland Paris is, and just offers that a little nod to the macabre, and also, even.
Let's not forget that Disneyland Paris had real reindeer at Christmas.
Yeah.
They had Santa's sleigh pulled by actual reindeer for years until someone said this is no longer a good plan. I have photos of that somewhere as well.
Health and safety people again.
Yeah. We haven't just got a headless horseman, we've got 6 reindeer. There is something really clever about the parades at Disneyland Paris, and they use the space incredibly well.
They do.
They did have their own version of the electrical parade, Fantalusion, and I've got some pictures of that as well that I'll dig out. But I think they are because. So for people who don't know, Disneyland Paris isn't allowed to do fireworks usually because of the fact that the land surrounding the parks is agricultural land. And
all the mice and rats that live in the agricultural land don't like fireworks.
Live in Disneyland Paris. A bit like why Animal Kingdom isn't allowed to do fireworks. Disneyland Paris.
Sorry.
If they do fireworks, they're silent ones. Or near silent, and that's why they've developed all the drone shows, because actually they don't disturb the local agricultural land,
the local environment. I think you'll put it that way.
Yeah, but that has meant that they have developed some incredible parades and evening shows and parades at night time that you wouldn't get anywhere else. So maybe that's a whole other show.
We could go there. I want to get us on to, Claire, just before we wrap up. And I'll make this really quick because
goodness.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I really, I think that's why they never let us do the show on our own because actually we could just go
Because
for
you
3
talk
hours
too
about
much.
this. Yeah.
Bye.
I'm just going to go because at D23 we got promised
Yeah.
a new
What do-
parade in Magic Kingdom. Now
It's a Disney.
I'm not
Star.
even, like I say, until it turns up, I'll believe it when I see it. But what would you like to see? That's my only question
Do you
to
know
end the
what?
show.
For me personally,
Yeah.
as long as it has that audio from the beginning of Wishes, I am a happy girl. If it has Starlight, Starbright, First Night of Star Sea Tonight, I wish I may, I wish I might. If that is at the beginning of the parade,
Yeah,
as I'm waiting,
Joe,
if I'm standing on Main Street or in the hub, and I'm standing
You-
there, and that audio, you know when it says the parade's
Yeah.
coming, and then the lights go down,
Yeah.
and that is in
Yeah.
the audio that it starts with. I do
At
not
that-
give
at
a
that point,
toss what parade floats are
It
coming.
won't matter what comes next because
I won't be able to
actually
see them because I'll be
The
crying.
tears will be coming from your eyes.
Right?
Yeah,
I
I'll be
don't
the
care.
same. Yeah.
For me, it needs to have a blue fairy at some
Yeah.
point in it,
Yeah.
and it needs to have that audio. Those two things. If it has Jiminy
I'm
Cricket
with
in
you.
it, then that I'm done for.
You've nicked exactly. They've trailed that far too much. And if you're going to do a parade and you're going to tease us to that extent, it has to be that. It can't be a remake of any other parade. It can't be a Spectro Part 2. It can't be
No,
Main Street Electric Parade
no.
revamped again because actually that would just be a cop out. It needs
Just give me the
soundtrack.
Wishes.
I think. I tell you what, Claire, that's it. Right, next week's show, we'll do from California. We'll be employed by Disney.
Are we just going to do predictions for what we
No.
need to see?
We'll just
Claire and John's Armchair Imagineering Show.
Yeah, I think it'd just be we'll be employed by Disney this time next week because actually,
do you know what? I am well up for that.
We've sorted them out with like at least.
We've
At
got 4
least-
or 5 ideas. That's not even
Yeah.
touching on
I think so.
the UK Pavilion at Epcot. You know,
I think so. Heather can come with us as
Yeah.
our artistic director, obviously, because
Yeah.
I think that would be a
Be our
mighty
manager.
fine way of doing it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
our
that's
agent.
it. She recognised our expertise
This
on that
is it.
issue.
Starlight. If it is what it says on the tin.
Oh my word!
I can't
Even
wait.
now, as you're saying that,
Getting all the
I'm
chills.
actually, I'm just like,
Yeah,
you mean
I
just
need to
like,
go and watch Wishes.
yeah,
This is it.
and it was
Do
just
we
like
have a
it'd be the
date
most.
for it?
No.
Do we know?
No, they're still thinking of it. They've said it, right? And this is why the part of me I don't want to believe exactly
So it
what's going to
says-
come.
It says summer
just like-
2025, and I have
Yeah.
to say, about 4 hours ago, I was looking at flight prices for next summer. Might have been just checking them out in case. Who knows? If that was the new parade, the evening parade was there, that would make it worth going for, without a doubt.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah. It just don't even thinking.
be awesome. I don't need all the
Yeah.
I don't need all the new IP. I don't need Frozen, and I don't need
No.
all of that stuff.
It doesn't need it, and actually doesn't warrant it
Heather's
because actually
in. I'll see you there, Heather.
brilliant, excellent. There we go. We're on. And I think that's another thing. I think we don't need, and you look at what's available in other worldwide Disney parks, which are very much sort of Pixar led and things like that. I don't think if you're looking at something in Orlando, we want something unique again. We want something that really resonates as it belongs at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Because when they do it right, and when they get the parade vehicles and they get just the
Look at
hidden
that.
detail, it's just
Flipping castle float again.
that's got to be there, Claire. Come on, let's face facts. Yeah,
Well,
that's
it's
got to be
clearly
there.
still around if Morgan was on it just
Yeah.
a few weeks ago. So put money on that happening.
Oh, too right.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I hate to do this.
We've got to stop, haven't we?
I think we have. And I don't like
it
doing
is-
that.
It's
I watched
10 to
the
10.
very end of the Grand Tour. Yeah, I know. I watched the very end of the Grand Tour the other night. I don't even like watching car programs or anything like, but it was really horrible
We've
watching
gotta
that come
stop.
to an end.
Look,
I
next
don't
week
want to watch.
we're back.
Let's come to an end.
We're back.
We've got a great show next week. Next week.
What's next
And
week?
I bet you. I've got a picture. I'll see if I can find it. Have you got
Is it the one that the pictures in the drive? Is it that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what we're doing next week?
I think so.
Oh my goodness.
Bar
I didn't know that.
hopping. I bet you Robin and Simon are both in with us next week because we're gonna lead
Megan's
everyone.
radar is like beep 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 beep. She's like bar hopping. I'm in.
Can we get Kelly in? Because it's been Kelly's birthday this week as well. So we get Kelly in. That'd be
Kelly's
even
birthday
better.
yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
We will.
Bar hopping. We're going to lead everyone astray next week.
Speak for yourself. How very dare you?
I like leading people astray when it comes to having a beer. That's it. And actually, the worst one of all is the fact that Simon, if we can get Simon on the show, Simon has got the most amazing list of different drinks that
he knows all the stuff.
Even just at Trader Sam's.
Right.
I tell you.
Simon pretends that he's just there, you know, and he's just going around. Simon he's a Disney villain. He knows exactly. He's an
aficionado, and actually next week's show will be amazing because actually it's the one that we've never been allowed to do before, and actually when
there's a theme for the next few weeks.
Yeah, we might make it messy along the way, but hey,
I'm going to put a little plug out that we had a show out on Sunday the 15th, which was it's only a
Mary
short
Blair.
one. It's a little nugget of gold about Mary Blair and her five-legged goat. But yeah, if you didn't, we are still carrying on with our Imagineering section for the rest of this year, but they might come out separately. So if they're not attached to the main podcast, they might appear. Who knows when? But the Mary Blair section, do you know what? I had so much fun looking up at all the stuff about Mary Blair. It's about 20 minutes. It's perfect for the drive to work. If you can watch it on YouTube, it's even better because there is some of her artwork that she's an artist, so it's quite visual. But even if you just want to listen to the details, it's quite an inspirational story in terms of
it is.
I'm not a massive feminist, but she rocked the world and she was amazing, and she challenged the system as a woman in the 60s and 70s, and she's iconic for that very reason.
That becomes a recurring theme with some of these Imagineers, though. They were all different. They all went against the mill, a bit like Walt himself. And that's what I think becomes really compelling as we put all of these stories together. They were all mavericks. They were all mavericks, and they were all wanting to do something different. Yeah. And I love that. I've loved it. I love doing about Bob Gurr. I want to adopt Bob Gurr. Simply because I did him in the same series. Beautiful man. It's just
he's amazing. He's like the granddad of Disneyland.
Yeah, but I also didn't realize until every year. It was my birthday last week. I share a birthday, not a birth date. I hasten to add because I'm 10 years younger. Birthday with Joe Roddy, and I was like,
"Do you?
You
should be an Imagineer."
But every year I forget, and then it comes up on the timeline. So it's Joe Roddy's birthday. I'm like, same day as me. I'm like, it's me. I always forget. But amazing story, and he's on the same program of different stories that we've shared this year. It just inspires you. Go on, Clive.
I share a birthday with Victoria Beckham. He does not inspire me, people. So there we are. Joe Roddy wins. He won that one.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm done for now. If Neil crashes the car when he's listening to this.
There you are. You win.
Do you know we've got an hour and 25 minutes and we haven't lost it.
Sorry, people. We're going to go. We're going to let you go back to all the stuff you need to do. If you want to catch up with any of our other content, you know where we are. We're on socials at GB Mickey Waffle. You can find us at greatbritishmickeywaffle.com. We've got another podcast out on the 1st of October. I can't even remember. Oh, we're talking to you, John, about your trip, your 5-year return.
It's about my yeah.
Strap in, people. It's quite a journey. It's not
It's-
too long.
it's- no, it's
We
a short-
limited him.
it's a
It only
short one.
covers the first 3
No,
days. No, joking. It's a really interesting podcast actually in terms of what's changed, and you forget what's changed.
Yeah.
So that was great fun. So that's out on the 1st of October. But go back and listen to Mary Blair from Sunday. It's only a little one.
It's brilliant. It's superb.
And we will see you. John and I will see you next week.
Yeah.
Maybe with some others. Who knows?
I
If
think-
not,
I
it'll be
think-
us,
yeah.
and we'll be talking about drinking somewhere.
Yeah,
Great.
get the drinks
Get
cabinet
the-
open
We
and
already have.
raid the mini bar for next week. We're incoming.
And
So-
Ben and Becca will be on a cruise somewhere, so there's absolutely no chance of them finding out what we're talking about, which is awesome. We can say what we want. Not that we don't anyway, but you know.
Oh dear.
Tell your
Get
friends
it
about us
in
if
the
you like
diary.
Disney and you want to share.
Yeah.
You know, like and subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell, tick the box, do all the things, tell us what you think. There's going to be some stuff in the Waffles Arms this week about interacting around drinking holes around, that sounds wrong, drinking establishments around Walt Disney World. Join us in the Waffles Arms, bring your own beverage.
Oh,
That's what I'm
dear.
going to say. I'll leave it there. John, you can sign off because I'm getting myself into trouble.
So why leave it there? But anyway, I'm gonna press the button and thank you for listening. We've enjoyed everyone in the chat. Thank you ever so much. And until next Wednesday, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
See you real soon.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind